My Rumble stream here, Joe. Make sure Rumble is alive and kicking. All right, everybody, we got Joe Kuhn on. How cool is that? So big welcome to Joe. He's calling in from Southern Indiana. So we got Jill is already on here. She's from Northern Indiana, Joe. So she's looking down at your kind. She's like, those Southern Indianas.
Hey, I'll take my Southern Indiana winners every day, every year.
Right on, man. Right on. And so Joe, I tell you, man, Joe, it's great to have you on the channel. I guess my Rumble, I forgot to set it up. See, are you on Rumble at all by chance, Joe? Do you ever do Rumble? I tell you, man, Rumble, I like it for videos, but I'm not convinced that Rumble is so YouTube, just as an FYI here, YouTube, we know, has been very let's put it this way, they can be very cautious on some of their content.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I know.
And so a lot of guys who might not see the way the corporate conglomerates want to see would jump on Rumble. And I like Rumble, don't get me wrong, but the problem with Rumble is that it's you don't get paid, first and foremost. I mean, I guess some of these guys get paid, like Crowder gets paid, all these guys, but simple-minded guys like me who don't get paid. And part two of that is that they just don't have the audience that YouTube does. Now, the scary thing is, this is my actually, is that YouTube seems that the audience is starting to drift over to TikTok. And are you on TikTok by chance?
No, I've looked into it a couple times, but keep in mind, I'm retired. I'm trying to simplify my life a little bit. And, that's my main excuse is YouTube does great for me. And I'm as busy as I'd like to be with that.
100%, man. I think about TikTok too. Is I think the videos got to be like real short. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like 1 minute or 30 seconds, something like that. And YouTube's trying to compete with that with their shorts, but I don't know. I know a lot of people that watch TikTok, and about every 6 months I study it and decide not to do it.
I'm like you, man. Like when I have too many things, I'm just a simple-minded guy. When I have too many things, like I can't keep track of it all. YouTube's work for me. I like YouTube. There's problems with everything, believe it or not. But also I just like the longer videos. The short stuff I can't do it, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm just too I don't have enough focus. I'm too ADHD, or I don't know what that was.
Yeah. I think all of us on YouTube, we're on YouTube because we like talking to ourselves to cameras, right? And that's not that group of people is not really short with words.
and thus moving a guy like us who likes to talk to ourselves on camera is like cathartic. To go to TikTok or something like that, you're like, oh, I was just getting started. You're like, no, you're done. Like, really? I only got 2 sentences out. Yeah,
that's it. Get to the point.
So Joe, all right, so how old are you? Rough, you don't have to tell me. I'm 52, just FYI. How old are you?
I'm 58.
Okay, and so you were in business. What were you doing as your career? What'd you do?
I worked in the aluminum industry. I was in management. So I was actually, the role I retired from was a plant manager of an aluminum complex here just about 10 miles away.
How is aluminum made?
Should I use the full hour? The aluminum, actually, most of the aluminum, most of the crust of the earth has aluminum in it. Okay, but it's in the form of aluminum oxide. It's concentrated in areas around the equator. The company I worked for, we mined that, and then we dissolved the aluminum oxide in a caustic solution, created and separated the aluminum from the oxygen. So you end up with, I got that a little bit mixed up. The refineries make aluminum oxide, which looks like sand. It's Al2O. Al2O.
Okay.
No, AlO2. AlO2 is the chemical composition. Hey, I've been retired for 4 years. That's aluminum. O2 is that mean 2 oxygen molecules. Well, then they bring it up to a smelter, which is where I worked. Okay. And a smelter in a electrochemical process separates the aluminum from the oxygen. Okay. And the aluminum goes to the bottom of these things we call pots, and we suck it off, and it's molten. That molten aluminum gets cast into large bars, like 40,000 pound bars. Okay. And we rolled that in a series of rolling mills from 21 inches thick down to like 5/1000ths of an inch thick that went into the food and beverage industry.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. Couple thousand people worked at the plant. I worked mostly at that plant for 32 years.
Oh man, right on. You start on the ground floor.
I was a engineer. So
Okay.
yeah, my background's engineering. I got into maintenance, worked in there for about 3 years as a maintenance engineer and helping mechanics solve problems. And then I went into management, and I spent most of my time in management. And yeah, I had 3 plant manager jobs, different locations. And one of the things that I enjoyed that led to my YouTube career, which I'm not talking on YouTube on what I started talking on.
Yeah.
I was the global director for reliability and maintenance. So what I did is I traveled to locations and was an internal consultant on how to take care of your equipment at the lowest cost. Okay. So my YouTube channel started 4 years ago. And if you go back and look at my older videos, I've got maybe 250 of them that are just pure reliability and maintenance on how to do that in your plant.
Yeah, right on.
And you know how I got my start on YouTube?
How?
A guy by the name of Josh, who I'm looking at right now. I was listening. I was thinking about retirement. I was watching your videos, and you had several in a row where you were saying, just start. This isn't that hard. I can do it. So I started making YouTube videos. I'm not blowing smoke. 100% of the reason I started making reliability and maintenance videos is because of you.
Okay. That's friggin', see, man. That's man.
You never know who you're influencing.
Well, the crazy thing is, as a member of the faith, if you know what I'm saying, with Jesus, as you don't have, that's fine. But as a member of the God who loves Jesus, we know that at the end of the day, you're not sure what a smile is going to do, but a smile to a fellow human being could be the difference between life and death. Maybe you just don't know. You'll never know. You'll never know until God chooses to. All right. So here's a question for you, Joe. So smeltering sounds like you need some heat to separate the molecules, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the jobs I had is now get ready to, I ran an 800 megawatt coal-fired power plant. I was responsible for 3 coal mines, and I burned a lot of coal. We used a lot of electricity. A moderate-sized city of maybe 200,000 can be supplied with the electricity that we used at the plant. Oh yeah.
And so the reason I'm asking this a roundabout way is because and you don't have to speak on this, I'll speak on it, but the idea that we're going to replicate this with solar panels and wind turbines is freaking insane, my friends. They're never going to get the quality of life we have if we don't have some sort of generation via coal, fossil fuels, or nuclear. You're not going to get through solar. And it actually, Joe, is one of my pet peeves, how many people, I hate to say idiots, because I do think there are a lot of idiots out there, but I think a lot of these people are blissfully ignorant, and they think they can have this level of life we've become accustomed to in the United States without having fossil coal, for instance, in particular, you know what I'm saying, or even just natural gas or oil. And it's insane. These people have no clue what they're talking about. And I'm sitting there thinking, you can't drive that Tesla. You can't get your solar photovoltaic panel without somebody mining it and somebody smelting it and somebody separating the components. It's just not going to happen.
I'm with you. It's, I mean, if you're in the industry, you know that nuclear can be an answer, but wind and solar, those are interesting. But you're not going to have any kind of manufacturing. One of the things that people don't understand is that generation of electricity exactly matches demand. So generation matches demand. It's instantaneous. So solar and wind, they just add to the pile, but they're not adding very much to the pile of electricity that's out there. And, we constantly were moving up generation. I mean, within, seconds, moving it up, moving it like this. And sunshine doesn't do that, and wind doesn't do that.
And there's no batteries that are going to do it either.
So there needs to be, some new technology developed. I don't know what the next 50 years are going to hold, but I know we've been working on battery technology for 150 years. I think I read somewhere that the first cars were electric.
The old Edison. He had.
Yeah.
If you look in 1904, New York Times. Edison was talking. New York Times writing about that the days of the ICE are over, and you're like, huh? Okay, they hardly even began. They're saying electric cars. Now we have the ability for alliance for longevity for batteries, and that was in still lead acid batteries, and
Yeah.
now we got lithium. Okay, how are you gonna get the lithium out of the ground? I mean, the whole thing is just stupid.
Yeah.
It's
There's a lot of people don't want to understand how the soup is made. They just want to eat the soup.
yeah,
And, that's one of the things with my technical background. I understand how electricity works. I understand how food cans are made, beverage
yes.
cans are made, all that kind of stuff. And, when you talk about electricity, it's like, we always talk about the negative aspects of electricity. Look, why not list the positive things? What has
and
been
the negative aspects of fossil
Yeah.
fuels. I'm not listening to positive things of fossil fuels.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely. It has changed the game for us, and there's so many countries that wish they were us.
100%, man. And that's my biggest fear of this. An apologist, for the Christian faith, we call it. An apologist means defending of the faith. My biggest fear is that the apologists for the fossil fuel industry is the defending of the fossil fuel, but they're always on the defense. They never go on the attack. And I tell you, man, you can, if we don't have coal, we don't have aluminum. That's all there is to it. If we don't have aluminum, we got no products. That's just a fact, man. And then we don't have steel. We're not gonna. It's just we're not gonna be able to dig in the ground on a freaking battery pack. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
On the I just while I'm yapping here on the aluminum around the equator. Is there a like oil? They keep talking about peak oil, and we keep finding new and more reserves and whatnot. Is there a level of aluminum that's in the equator, in the crust that at some point will be exhausted? Do you know anything about that? I'm just curious.
Oh, well, I guess anything's possible, but aluminum oxide and it comes from bauxite. And this is kind of like an orangish dirt. It's very common. The only reason we mine it from the equator is because it's in higher concentrations. I could go out here in my backyard in Indiana and get aluminum oxide out of the ground, but it has less aluminum oxide in it. We got more clays and stuff like that. I'm getting it over my head, but places like Jamaica and Australia is really big. Ghana in Africa is really big. But there's places where it's got like a 50% concentration in like the top 10, 12 feet of earth. It's not very deep at all. It looks like they're mining dirt. You would look at it and say, that's orange dirt. And we'd say, hey, it's got 50% aluminum oxide in it.
So it sounds pretty abundant then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's extremely abundant. It's just hard to extract if you don't know what you're doing.
Now, did you go to these countries and Ghana?
Yeah, actually, that's what I did. I would work with the bauxite mines on their equipment that they take it out of the ground with, and on their processing plants, the refineries that make the aluminum oxide, the white sandy material. I traveled to smelters. So yeah, I've been to. We have plants in Iceland, Saudi Arabia, Norway, Spain.
And you went all over
Australia. Yeah, I've been to 32 countries with my job.
Are you married, Joe?
Yeah. I'm married, have 35 years this year. I have 4 adult kids, and they're all engineers and all out of the house. Yeah, couldn't be more excited.
So your wife freaking, she wore the pants while you're out there going to Ghana and stuff like that.
Well, I did that for a 4-year period of time.
Okay.
That was really, my daughter was still in college. I have 3 boys, and then my youngest is a girl. My daughter was starting her junior year of college when I went on those trips. So I worked from home, and then I traveled maybe 40% of the time. Right. She came with me on a few trips, but not many. But yeah, it was a 4-year stint of my life that I traveled.
Are you and your wife high school sweethearts or something like that, or me in school? Or?
My wife and I started dating when I was 16 and she was 14.
Yeah.
How did you know that?
You've been married 35 years and 4 kids, and you're in Southern Indiana. You're the old school Americans, man. You're a dying breed, Joe. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Hey, I'm telling you what. Hey, yeah. When people look at me when I introduce myself and say I worked for a company for 32 years, they look at you like you're crazy. What do you mean you worked for one company for 32 years?
So your wife is 14, so she was like a freshman in high school or something like that.
Yeah,
Right?
she finished her freshman year of high school. Yeah.
All right. So then you graduated. You went to college or something like that, or
Yeah, I went to a local university and got a mechanical engineering job. I actually co-opted, which means I went to school my freshman year, and then every other semester I went to work.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So
No,
I
I
went to
understand.
work for a semester, then I go to school, went to
Yeah,
work, went to school. So just alternated, and it allows for you. I
yeah,
got paid like 2/3 of an engineer
yeah, yeah, yeah,
salary for
absolutely.
that.
Yeah,
So was able to get out debt free because I worked. Now it took me 4.5 years to get out, but I worked for General Electric under Jack Welch in
yeah.
those days
Hey,
in
hey.
the
And
late
he didn't
80s.
he didn't let you go. He said, "Ah, we'll keep old Joe here." You know
Yeah,
what I'm
well,
saying?
no, I didn't work. I didn't. They had a hiring freeze when I got out of school.
Ah,
GE. I worked for another company called Alcoa, the Aluminum
yeah,
Company of America,
absolutely.
is what it used to be
Yeah,
called. It's
absolutely.
now just Alcoa Inc.
Yeah, out in Tennessee, 100%, man. See,
Yeah, Knoxville,
yes,
Tennessee. They have
sir.
a plant down there. I've been there 20, 30 times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
can't
They got
count.
Alcoa, and then in Kingsport, Tennessee, they got Eastman Chemicals. That was called a chemical company in Kingsport, Tennessee. Alcoa's right down there. A lot of these old company towns, essentially. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
That's
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
there's a town called
yeah,
Alcoa
yeah,
just outside of Knoxville. That was a company town. They had
yeah,
company store. They had all those things in the 20s,
yeah,
and that really helped support the World War II effort,
yeah.
making aluminum for aircraft.
Well, they say 16 tons and deeper in debt. You know what I'm talking about? Nothing you ever go to.
Yeah, that's a truck driver song, isn't it?
Yeah, they talk about company town. I owe my soul to the company store. I can't remember who does that song. But yeah, so while you were going to co-op, your wife was back in high school. Are y'all from Southern Indiana or what?
Yeah, I can't get out of this place for some reason. I got a lot of family around.
Right.
And my mom and dad are still alive. My dad's 86, my mom's 84. I got two brothers that live around here.
Yeah.
I got a sister that lives in Indy. Now my kids are all over the place. They're
Where are they? Are they still in the States at least? Or?
yeah, they're in the States. I got one in Indianapolis. He's close. And he's married.
Tennessee,
And
right there.
then
Tennessee Ernie Ford sings that song.
yeah, there you go. Hey, that's why we got an audience, man.
Yes, sir. 100%.
So my
Man.
oldest Tyler, he's 33, lives in Indianapolis, and then I have a son Drew that lives in Richmond, Virginia,
All right.
and then I have a son Spencer that lives in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Okay.
So, and then I have a daughter that lives in, hang on for this, Sneed's Ferry, North Carolina. Her name's Kaylee, and she's married to a U.S. Marine that is at Camp Lejeune. Now, we've all heard of Camp Lejeune, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And their water problems. But he's a
yeah.
U.S. Marine.
Can't
Yeah.
turn on the TV without seeing that. That's for sure. Gotcha. So she married a Marine.
She married a Marine. He's an officer. They met at Purdue University. So super excited. All the kids are doing well and don't need dad anymore.
Did your wife work? Did she stay at home to raise the kiddos?
Well, she was educated as a school teacher for 4 years, worked for 2, and then took a 1-year leave of absence 33 years ago. So yeah, the short answer is she stayed home, raised the 4 kids.
I don't
And I tell you, Josh, I've made videos on this. My wife and our plan was always to have her go back to work once the kids, got a little established. Yeah. But I think one of our secrets, and this, a lot of people don't like this, but we decided to play a zone. Let's double down on my career, allow me to volunteer, to change jobs, to work an extra hour a day and volunteer for this or that, this project, and advance my career. And she, raised, I was here for the kids. I coached the kids. I was around an awful lot, but when the kids were sick, with the kids' homework, all that she did. And I'm telling you, financially, we were better off focusing on one career
Absolutely.
than two. And I see this so much with married couples, their hair's on fire.
Yep.
Neither one of them are doing a good job at home or at work.
Yep.
And they just fight to live another day. And my wife, she cut the grass, she did the laundry, all that kind of stuff. So whenever I came home at 5 o'clock, it was all family time.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Saturday was all family time.
Yeah.
I did not have 100 things to do. We didn't have to do grocery shopping. This is what we did when we were first married. We didn't have children, but it was like, hey, we got to go grocery shopping at night. We got to go grocery shopping on the weekends. That all turned into pure family time and where I could be present. So, man, I love it. I love the formula.
That's huge. My wife stays home too, but she worked part time as like a teller at a bank or something like that. You know what I'm saying? When we had no money, just to get a little bit extra money, and I worked 2 jobs. I was binding books at R. Donnelly. I was working at night. I was working at bank during the day. But it's just one of those things. You have to have this mutual arrangement where you say, this is the plan of action for the go forward. So we're not running around like a chicken with the head cut off. And I got to tell you, man, kudos to both y'all for seeing that through, because I think. Sad to say, but I think a lot of men, let's just put it this way, they get these wandering eyes, Joe, as they start getting a certain level of financial success, and then the woman who sacrificed everything gets left behind. I've had clients like that, and it freaking pisses me off. Not gonna lie, it pisses me off. I'm like, man, how the hell do you do that to your wife when she sacrificed everything for your? Not you, Joe. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
It drives me. Now, look, that's not saying all women are simply or just to take. I get women can be bad. I 100%, but man, I'm sitting there thinking, if you can just get to a point where you can acknowledge each other as like our future is the family unit, not me, Josh or Joe. It's a family unit, and I throw in with you, you throw in with me, and the family unit. I got 4 kids too. Is the 4 kids making sure that they're as secure possible as they can possibly be to have a better life than what we had, however that is. Dude, that's freaking awesome, Joe. That's much. Hey, are you in the same house you started with, or what?
No, I'm in the. We have built 4 houses, and my wife. I'm an engineer. I don't get intimidated by building things and drawing things up. But my wife is the expert, working with the contractor, picking everything out. We built houses through the 90s and early 2000s. And I'm telling you that it was a great time in this area. I mean, we'd build a house for $150,000. We'd stay in it for 2 years and sell it for $210,000.
Yes, right.
And so we just kind of stepped up. This house that I'm in now, we've been in for 17 years, which is, it's one we, raised the kids in. We had 4. They all had their own bedroom. We got a basement underneath here, and it's way too big for us. But, people say, hey, how about downsizing? Well, we love the holidays. Everybody comes home. Everybody comes home for a wedding. We want to have space for everybody. We want to be that hub. So, for right now, we're staying.
Yeah, right on, man.
And we managed to build this one smart. We got the master bedroom on the main level. So I really don't need to go. I got 3 bedrooms up and a full basement. I almost never go upstairs.
Where's your washing machine? Are they in the first floor too?
First floor. Yeah. Everything's first floor.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Yeah. That's the way to do it. Ours not. Ours is up the second floor. And as I get older, I'm like, tell my wife, like, we're going to have to go back to a 3-2 ranch or something like that. Because our house is, when you got a family of 6, you need more space. When you got a family of 2, you don't need so much.
Yeah.
But like you, man, like, and we've been here 10 years. Like, this kind of might be the central location, just like where you are. Fort Collins, Richmond, they just all meet halfway in Indiana.
And my family's here. Yeah. And, there's people that think about moving to low-cost states and low-cost countries. Yeah. We get together on Father's Day. We get together on birthdays, graduation. There's too much family. Those relationships mean too much to me to really think about moving.
Are your wife's parents still alive?
No, actually, my wife's parents could be a whole nother show. Okay, they both passed. They were actually in concentration camps during World War II.
Like here in the States?
No. Her dad is Polish. Her mom was Ukrainian. They were taking from their Lisa. Lisa came along much later in life. She was a surprise baby. I should have opened with that. They were in Nazi concentration camps.
No, were they married before they went in?
No, they went in about 14 years old. So when the Nazis came in, they knocked on the door. They were Catholic, so they didn't immediately go to the death camp. But they were they were taken and put in work camps. Like Lisa's mom made heavy ammunition, but they had gas chambers on site. And John, her dad, was a farmer. So that's what fed the Nazi machine, was free labor from slaves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Pauline, her mom, actually was supposed to. They saw the Americans were coming. The guard, the Nazi guard, told these girls, they were separating the girls' dorms. They told the girls, "I'm going to leave the door open tonight. You're supposed to be gassed tomorrow. Leave tonight." Damn. So they left and went into a cemetery and hid for 3 days until the Americans got them. So then Catholic Charities sponsored them to come over. They got married over in the rubble.
And how then they meet? I don't get how they know each other beforehand.
Refugee camp.
Okay, gotcha.
Imagine, a lot of people don't think about what was Germany, Poland. It was just a war zone, and people are just walking around with wheelbarrows with their stuff in it.
Right.
They had tents and stuff like that. So so they met and got married, had 2 kids over there, moved over here, and then my wife came along 22 years later.
That's crazy, man.
It's a much more fascinating than my family story. Sad.
Family story goes back too. I mean, you know what I'm saying? But it's just more recent, frankly, a lot of times. More generational been America. But I mean, they all have a story. You know what I'm saying? Like how they came here, ultimately, how they they settled in. That's crazy. That's the kind of stuff that needs to be remembered to recognize. It's easy to forget, and I'm not saying that never forget that. I'm saying it's easy to forget that we're the way we have it here right now doesn't mean the way it's always got to be.
Yeah.
And I try to emphasize that, Joe, on my channel. It's like, we've had a good run since post World War II, man. That doesn't mean it doesn't mean it's God's freaking divinity that's allowing us. It might be, I don't know.
It doesn't have to be this way. And one of the things that's sobering for me, I was born in 1964, is 20 years before I was born, World War II and Hitler were in charge. That's unbelievable. And 20 years just like that.
20 years before you were set foot on this earth, Hitler was still running things. You know what I'm saying? Hitler, the guy we look back at history, and no one's going to name their kid Adolf again because that guy. You know what I'm saying? And yet that wasn't that far removed.
It wasn't that long ago, man.
Dude, it's crazy. I was actually I'm working on a new course/book, and I was just doing the front, the beginning of the chapter here today. And I was like, I was kind of talking my story, how I came to learn about investing. And I was like, you couldn't just look up a website for a prospectus back. You literally had to call the company, like with a phone, a real landline phone, dial 1-800, pound sand, and get some person on the other, you know what I'm saying? And that was literally in our lifetimes. And yet, I'm only 52, man. It's not like an old man. And yet those days are gone now. Now you don't even have to talk to anybody. It's crazy. And yet going back to you is like, when you were born, Hitler was just, still in the news, essentially. Isn't that crazy? Man. So, all right. So you decided you had a career in aluminum. You said, I think I'm ready to hang. What made you say I'm ready to hang it up? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I was at a point in my career where I loved about 50% of what I did in a day. And the other 50% was just getting monotonous bureaucracy, and I don't want to get too long with this story, but I was starting to get that itch, and I actually had prepared. I was saying, hey, I wanted to get out by 55. That was my goal, 55. And so I just wanted to spend more time coaching people, mentoring people. And I've actually developed one of the areas that I'm, it's just being honest, I'm a subject matter expert on is reliability and maintenance cultures. Setting up those cultures in plants where they can reduce their cost, have better performance of their assets. And I had this knowledge and gift that I wanted to share it, so I said, hey, that's what I want to do. and so left a little bit early to do that because you only got so much time.
Man,
I tell people, they ask me what was the worst financial decision I ever made. Well, was retiring at 54. You know how much money I left on the table? I could have worked till I was 100, and look how much money I would have had. And I said, well, you eventually got to get to a point where you don't want to exchange money for time.
Man, that is so true, Joe. 100%. How'd your wife feel like when he said, honey, what's your wife's name again?
Lisa.
So you're like, Lisa, I think it's time. Was she like, whatever you want to do? Or she like, what'd she say?
Well, I worked out the finances with my wife, and I just said, hey, Lisa, you never know when I'm going to have a bad day at work. So I have your permission to quit, right? And I had that for about a year. I had her permission just to say, my one bad day. And I actually had that, and I made a video on that. I really don't want to go into that, but I had a bad day where I was asked to, I'll say, compromise my values. Yeah. And I said, I'm not delivering that message.
Man, 100%.
I said 2 weeks, and then they asked me to stay 2 months, and now
were you working from home by this time though?
No. My when I was the global director of reliability and maintenance, that was the second to last job I had. The last job I had, I was the operations manager at that smelter rolling complex I was talking about.
So Lisa, though, wasn't used to you being at home full time. So how did she take to all of a sudden waking up and there's old Joe hanging out?
Hey, another video topic that I got out there, that is one of the things that I didn't do well, is most people only focus on the money. Yeah. And once you retire, 6 months after you retire, the money stuff just kind of works, exactly. But your relationship with your spouse, and I'll give a specific. My wife's, her vision of retirement was, hey, we're going to take what we do on Saturday and Sunday, because we're together most Saturdays and Sundays. We're doing things as a couple and in the yard and with family. We're just going to do that 7 days a week. Well, that's way too much time. That you'll kill each other. So we kind of worked out, hey, I'm going to have some journeys that I'm on by myself. Right, exactly. My YouTube channel, my consulting. I have a book club that I have a retirement group. These things, they're not really time consuming. They're a little bit here and there. Right. But then we got some journeys that we're on together. Both of us, focus on our nutrition, on exercise, and we love to travel, especially see our kids. So we got a couple journeys we're on together and a couple journeys we're on by ourselves. And what's interesting, just how that plays out in an average day, I may get up, come in. This is my office I'm speaking from. I may have a call with somebody, or I may be making a video, and my wife may still be sleeping. She'll get up and she'll just leave a note in the kitchen saying, hey, I'll be back at 2. And she's off on her journey. But at the beginning, we were in each other's turf, and we had to work. Yeah.
Joe, when I quit my crappy little job, I'll never forget. I said, man, I'll never forget. My wife was out there by the kitchen, doing something, you know what I'm saying? I said, man, isn't this great? We get to see each other all the time. I'll never forget. She goes, yeah, this is great. It's really great. And to say the least, a couple weeks later, she was looking for a part-time job. And I say, oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? So then she goes, yeah, it's because her turf was when I was at the job. You know what I'm saying? This was her turf. And now here I am. It's kind of like, I got these 2 dogs. There's one of them. And that's not, that's just, that he follows me around. But my other dog, Pablo, is like literally on me like stink on poop, if you know what I'm saying. And I love Pablo, but it's like, dude, I need some I need some dad time. You know what I'm saying? So my wife is like, it's great, but I still kind of like having my own time. So what we're going to do is when I'm working on my books and stuff, I'll go like Dunkin' Donuts or something like that, get out of her hair, and also get some time away from the puppies, because they look at me as a piece of meat. There's dad, there's food. So it's interesting that you have that same dynamic initially.
Oh yeah, we actually have a family term for how to address that. We just say, I need some alone time. I need an alone day. I need an alone day. And that means, okay, we're together too much. And you go off and do your thing, and don't be offended that I'm gone for the next 8 hours.
Right, I'm saying. That's interesting. Are you gonna do like any road trips like by yourself to yeah, go ahead.
Oh, travel, just me.
Like just for kind of like videos you're doing, or just to I don't know, to any kind of stuff you're doing like on your own kind of private work environment. I hate to say work,
No.
but your own kind of mission stuff that you're doing. You're gonna
Yeah.
get out there. Yeah.
Actually, I've never done that. I've gone on a couple of faith-based retreats.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Maybe I haven't been on one in about 5. COVID kind of threw
Yeah.
all
Oh
those
man, no
things.
doubt.
But I used to go on one every couple years.
Yeah.
But by and large, when we travel, we're together,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
and
right
we
on, man.
love that. We just got back from seeing. We spent a week with my son and his girlfriend in Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah.
Then we went down to Sneed's Ferry, which is right on the coast
Yeah.
in North Carolina. Spent a week there, and we like spending time together, and we like driving vacations.
So when you gave your 2 weeks, soon to be 2 months notice, where people like, you can't retire, Joe, you're too young. Did you hear
Oh
that?
yeah, oh yeah, all that, and
And what do you,
all that. People are just like, quite a bit of what I hear is, I love my job. I never could do that. I'm too valuable. I just don't
I'm
know how
too
they would function.
valuable. Yes.
Yeah, I get all those excuses, and I just, oh, hey, tell yourself whatever you want to tell yourself. But hey, if you won $100 million in the lottery, would you be working in 2 months?
So when you like, did you actually get any? I don't want to say hostility; it's too strong a word, but actually kind of some people get mad, man. Like when they see you moving on to bigger and better things. This is what happened to me. There's jealousy, but they couch it in almost like passive aggressiveness. You know what I'm saying? And did you get that at all? By
No,
chance?
I didn't get that. I'll tell you, one of the things that surprised me is I had a whole lot of things in the works, whole lot of projects and,
Yeah.
initiatives that I was pushing at the plant. Let's say there were 6 of them. And I told the guy that was replacing me, I said, man, hey, these are what I was pushing. This is why I think it's really important.
Yeah.
Call me anytime. I'm here for you. I can meet you for lunch. I can come out anytime you need anything. Guess how many phone calls I got?
None.
None.
Yeah.
That was the only thing that was a little humbling to
Yes,
me. And I share
man.
that story with people, like, and there's a little phrase that, hey, the cemetery is full of irreplaceable people. Don't think that they won't find a way to operate without you. Just check your ego.
Of all the people I dealt with in retirement for my whole career, I tell you that is one thing that shocks people. They think when they go back to the office, see people that they're gonna be, hey, welcome with open arms. So I'm just like, oh yeah, there's Bob from accounting, and we forgot about you. You know what I'm saying?
You're gone. I mean, and it was fast. It was within months. I got invited back. I'm on a community advisory board for them, for the company. And, it's like half the people don't even know who I am. It's just, I'm just Joe. I'm very comfortable. I love being Joe. I'm not my title. I'm just Joe.
No, I think it's important actually for men in particular not to be the title, to be Joe, to be Josh. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to like, I'm Joe the plant manager, because then the plant manager stops. You're no longer Joe the plant manager, and that could be kind of humbling if people are like they live through vicariously through their title at their work.
Yeah, and when you got to be comfortable when somebody, you get introduced to somebody at a party or a get together, and they say, "Hey, Joe, what do you do?"
Yeah.
And I can't. I'm still smiling 4 years later. I'm retired.
So you started doing were you helping people with their finances while you're still working? Like, were you the go-to guy? It's like, hey, what?
Oh no. I was pretty close to the vest with what I was doing, and then I felt I was in pretty good shape and did some math, and then I retired. But what happened? And I was doing the reliability and maintenance thing, and I write for magazines. I was guest speaker at some conferences, and then I was doing the YouTube channel. Just had some things going. And one of you viewers out there, I was just talking about something reliability and maintenance, and they said, "How old are you?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm 54." And they said, "How did you retire?" And then I said, "Hey, I'll just make a video on that."
Yeah.
And, so that's how it started. I said, I'm going to go rogue and I'm going to go off topic.
Yeah.
There's other people that go off topic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I got to point the wrong other way. Go off topic. So I went off topic, and then the audience just went freaking crazy.
Yeah.
And I try to just tell my story.
Right.
There are great people out there, financial advisors, fiduciaries, people like you, Josh, that know taxes and Social Security extremely well.
Yeah.
I'm just telling people, hey, here's what I took in the information. Here's the decision I made and why. It may be wrong, but hey, I'm on this retirement journey, maybe just a few years ahead of some people. If you're thinking about retiring in 2-3 years, I'm 4 years in, and here's what I learned. Here's what I wished I knew. So I think there's a place for everybody, but I'm just really telling my story.
And people see I tell you, man, this would people need in my business. I'm saying my colleagues, they need to recognize that all this stupid Monte Carlos and look, I use it, I get it, but it's just like reality is what people are looking for. Real, like what is Joe Kuhn? He's just a guy working an aluminum plant. I'm just a guy. I mean, I'm not saying anything negative.
I know.
Just a guy like us. He raised 4 kids. His wife stayed at home. He can retire in his mid-50s. Why? Here's why. Oh, I can relate to that, or I can't. That's fine. But it's just like that's the kind of stuff that's just and I hate to even say authentic because it's so fake anymore. But the authenticity that comes with people just need to recognize, get the freaking pipe out of your butt and just be a regular dude, man. You know what I'm saying? And people will and they might not agree with it. That's okay.
Yeah. I get a few people that don't agree with me. They're not shy about telling me I'm stupid.
I could care less. And then do your own thing. Or start your own YouTube channel. I don't care.
Yeah.
I just literally don't care. But the issue is, I'm not going to hide anything. I'm not going to lie to people, and you're going to tell them your story as it was, and that's all the pitfalls and the success stories too. And people just need that. So the first thing, Joe. All right. What about healthcare? The first thing. What about healthcare? So how do you answer that for Joe and Lisa?
Yeah. Well, actually got a video on that, but my answer is, there's different options out there. What we chose to do is we got Indiana Farm Bureau. Okay. They have a United Healthcare plan that is very attractive. I'll be blunt. We pay $900 a month for the two of us total. And I love it. The reason now, why did I not go with the Affordable Care? Okay. Right. Those Affordable Care are state-based plans. Okay. It's very common in Indiana. If you have a serious condition, you get cancer, you have some problem, you want your knee replaced, you go to the Mayo Clinic in Minneapolis, you go to the Cleveland Clinic, you go to what's the place in Nashville? Vanderbilt. You go to a specialist. If you're on the Affordable Care plan, you're going to someplace in Indiana. And I did not want to make that choice. Okay.
Interesting. So someplace in Indiana when they can see you too, I'm at.
Yeah, when they can see you, and here's the doctor. Those plans aren't bad, and they will be just a little bit cheaper.
Right.
But I'm not going to look my wife in the eye and she's got cancer. And I said, hey, instead of going to the Mayo Clinic, there's this great facility in Boonville, Indiana, and I just didn't want to do that. And I'm now that $900, they have a dental and vision program with that. So that's, that probably knocks off another $100. So I'm paying $800 a month. And I could probably do something a little cheaper, but I didn't want to. And also, it covers well care.
Okay.
So I didn't want to be the guy. I could have paid cheaper and got just major medical. Get something with a $10,000 deductible. But I didn't want to be the person with the stock market's down 25%, Lisa. You sure you need that mammogram this year? Why don't we kick that down the road? And so I don't have to pay that $800 or whatever they are. So I wanted wellness in there. I wanted to go to any doctor in the country, and Farm Bureau solved that for me.
Now, can you get Farm Bureau in other states or just
You
Indiana?
can get it in Farm Bureau is expanding that to several states, but the state legislature has to pass a law saying they can do that, because with the Affordable Care Act, it was like, hey, and it's not called health insurance; it's Farm Bureau health plans.
Interesting.
Health
Yeah.
plans.
Yeah.
So I think there's like 7 or 8 states. I really haven't been keeping in track, but they got a website. I've been on them for 3 years now. No regrets
Farm
at all.
Bureau health plans. All right, cool. And you've had no issues with them so far.
Absolutely no issues. We've been doing all the wellness, all the tests for female, the colonoscopies, and
oh, how dare you say test for female? How dare you, Joe? You need to get those tests too.
Tests for people that look different than me.
Tests for pregnant people. How dare you, Joe? That's fantastic. Yeah, so $900. I mean, look, I hate to say it, but that's the cost of insurance, my friends. It ain't cheap. And the reason it ain't cheap is because it's so heavily regulated. So all these people want this insurance for free. I'm like, if you get it for free, you're passing up something. That's all there is to it. It might work. I don't know. All I know is at the end of the day, Obamacare is not. Did you have to get underwritten for this, by the way, Joe? For the farm?
Yes, they had, and I think this is what you mean. They and hopefully I'm not scaring people with this, but they do not cover pre-existing conditions for 6 months.
Okay.
So if you can't sign up with them and have a heart transplant the next day, they want you to be, hey,
you got to pay into it. Yeah, you got to have some skin in the game, 100%. So I think that's absolutely.
But after 6 months, it's full everything. If you have high blood pressure or anything like that, they cover everything. They won't cancel you. There's no lifetime maximum. I love it.
That's fantastic, man. That's fantastic. So Farm Bureau health plans, folks, and that's Joe's in Indiana. So we got Donna's here. We got Jill. I don't think she needs it though, but there's some Indiana people on here as well. And Farm Bureau health plans. That's fantastic. So what we did, we're not on Obamacare either. Now I still got 4 kids on my thing there, Joe. So for us, we went some private plan. It's $2,000 a month, man. You know what I'm saying? And then we got braces coming out the wazoo. We got broken, because we still got younger kids. They're not as young as they used to be, thankfully. But it ain't. It's just this is what the thing that boggles my mind, Joe, is how many people think healthcare is inexpensive, and they don't think that, but they're taught like that, like under Obamacare or even Medicare, that healthcare is inexpensive, and it's just not. It's Medicare. It drives me. I can't. When I do these financial plans, say I budget about $550 a month for Medicare. They're like, what? Medicare is $550 a month because they're all in this insane assumption that it's basically free. I say, no, it's not free. It's freaking expensive, and it's growing more expensive by the day. And it's only going to get worse because and it's only going to get another thing about what you made a good point about the Farm Bureau. We had a friend, my wife does, very, very wealthy. Her dad lives in Texas, and she needed to get some kind of specialized service, and she's on Obamacare. Now she's paying the full thing for it, but and she couldn't. The doctor. Did you ever watch The Simpsons at all? The Simpsons. Remember Dr. Nick Riviera? Hey, doctor, everybody, it's Dr. Nick. She had to go, she lives in Dallas, and she had to go someplace 100 miles away to see the Obamacare version of Dr. Nick Riviera. And it's and this lady's got money. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. So she goes, now my dad's just going to pay out of pocket for a real doctor. You know what I'm saying? I said, and that's the concern with Obamacare that bothers me. It's and it's just one story, I grant you, but it's man, if it's an HMO and you're told where you got to go, that's the only place you're going. And if you got to wait and you got to see Dr. Nick and the office is dirty, that's it, man. There's no, unless you want to pay out of pocket, exorbitant out of pocket expenses.
Yeah, so, I have relatives that live in Mazatlan, Mexico, and my sister lived in Derby, England. Her husband got transferred over there with Rolls-Royce. The jet engine people, probably the car people too, but he worked in jet engines. And those socialized medicine is bad. I'll tell you what they told my sister. My sister was 60. She went in, was having some, you got me nervous about saying female problems, but she had some female problems. And they went in and had a doctor panel, and they said, well, you've lived a good, long, healthy life, and told her that they didn't approve the surgery.
What? And
And
she's out 60 years old?
yeah, well, that's a good long life. And then you should see my sister. She's the oldest, and she there were some words. But then she actually had duplicate insurance back in Indianapolis, here in Indiana. She flew back and had surgery within a week.
Freaking scumbags do that.
And the same thing in Mexico. My relative's been down there almost 20 years, and they don't have any procedures in Mexico. It's free.
Yeah, right.
It's free. And you get what you pay for.
Dude, that we've my dad was very, very active in the health. It used to be MSAs before HSAs back in the old days, and that's actually fun. When I got the Army, I used to actually he used to do these newsletters, and we lived in D.C., so I used to take it up to Capitol Hill, the Russell Office Building, and get to all the various Congress people and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you want to see a bunch of hot-looking ladies, Joe? You go to D.C., especially in the summertime. A lot of hot-looking ladies in short skirts, and we know what's going on there because they all work for Ted Kennedy and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I was like, dude, what the hell is happening? This whole thing is corrupt as all can be. Oh, here comes Pablo. See, you want to say hello?
Yeah, hey, Pablo.
But anyway, so he always said rationing. The thing with socialized medicine is always rationing, and if you're not a politically approved group, you're not going to be rational. You're going to basically be told just like your sister was told. Like,
yeah, they got a budget.
Yeah,
they're trying to hit their budget. They can only do 10 knee replacements a month. You're number 11. We'll kick you out the next month. We'll try it.
We'll try. It sucks to be you if you're in pain. If you're in pain, hell, that's why I have assisted suicide in Canada. It's crazy.
Man.
So that's all right. Good. So that Farm Bureau. Couple people said Texas does has Farm Bureau as well. So that's good stuff there, Joe. I had no clue about Farm Bureau. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Man. And again, guys, underwriting just means they want to make sure that they're not going to be on the hook for for instance, you're not going to get insurance if your house is on fire. You can't say to a fire insurance company, hey, I need insurance now. They're going to come look at your house and say, well, your house is on fire. We're not going to cover you. And that just inherently makes sense. If they were to do that, then insurance.
They don't want you to pay for 2 months of premiums, have your open heart surgery, and then stop paying. Yeah.
What I'm saying. Absolutely. And what I'm saying, Joe. Exactly right. All right. So health, do you have a pension from the company?
Small pension. You know, I can make $16,000 a year. It's nice. I love getting it, but I got a $16,000 pension.
All right. So basically your pension covers your health insurance essentially.
Yeah. A little bit more, but it's nice.
All right. So, and then, but Joe, then how did you make it work? Because we all need, freaking $150 million to retire on. And I, don't take this wrong, but I don't get the impression you got $150 million. So how did you make this work?
No, it's, to me, Josh, I've learned a lot from you. I'll be honest. It all starts with expenses. I'll talk to somebody and they'll say, I got 4 million. Do I have enough to retire? And then I'll talk to somebody with 500,000. Do I have enough to retire? It depends on how much money you spend, and I've had people that said, hey, my base spending is $200,000 a year. And I'm like, what? My base spending? And then there's somebody else that, hey, my base spending, is $36,000 a year. My house is paid off. I only got $350,000 and they're fine. Right. They're just fine. So you've got to manage, you got to know your budget. And so many people I find, they don't pay attention to their budget. They just spend. And I'm saying, hey guys, I'm sorry. Retirement means you got to know how much money you're spending, especially if you want to try early retirement. You can't just live and say whatever the visa bill is at the end of the month, we'll pay $1,000 and whatever's over, we'll just pay the interest on it. You've got to know where your money's going.
Yeah, that's Joe. It's one of the things that I find very interesting when we talk about retirees don't spend as much as they did pre-retirement. And the reason is quite simple, just what you said. Once the money stops flowing in on an earned income base, you start being a lot more conscious of where your spending dollars go. And inherently you're saying, I use this story because I'm so damn impulsive sometimes. I like gardening. I have this, I like to start my seed samples in the house before and transplant them out when the winter's behind us. You know what I'm saying? So you get these AeroGrow gardens. I have this big AeroGrow garden thing that you can actually grow a blueberry bush inside if you want. Just indoor ice and whatnot. And I don't smoke dope. If I did, I'd grow that, but I don't. And I don't drink, so I'm not, brewing anything. But anyway, the point being is I bought that. I got on sale, 50% off, something like that. It's still sitting in the friggin' box, dude. 2 years later, still sitting in the box. I'm like, see, that's the kind of stuff that happens when the money's just flowing in because of income. You're like, I got the money, I got the money. The minute that income stops, and I bet, Joe, you can speak to this, the minute the income stops, all of a sudden you start saying, I don't need that aerial garden. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's you need to stop falling in love with stuff.
Yes.
And you learn stuff doesn't bring you happiness, and you think, hey, I may buy something, but I will have thought about it for a few weeks, really, instead of being an impulse buyer is probably the number one thing you need to stop doing for early retirement. But yeah, it's you really going from a saver to a spender.
Yes.
Actually, I talked to a lot of people about that. It's hard.
How did you deal with that, man? So you got your money, you've been putting in for 30 odd years, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm not putting anymore. Like, just in terms of your own, it sounds like you probably were prepared for that, but mentally, how did you work with that?
I'm telling you, it was tough. I can't say there was a formula or a message that I read. It was more that I did a lot of spreadsheets.
Yeah. Wait, an engineer with spreadsheets? No.
Imagine that. I did a lot of spreadsheets and was looking at, both my budget and how much I can overspend by in a given month. And one of the things I had to do is I actually, this may be bad for some people here, but I don't look at my budget every week or even every month. I have a cadence where once a quarter I look at things because there's ebbs and flows, like, oh, it's Christmas time and somebody's birthday or we traveled. So I look at spending over a 3-month period of time versus our budget and then decide if we need to make a course correction. And really, 4 years, we really haven't made any course corrections. I tell people, like, I made my budget for retirement. I'm spending, let's say, maybe 80% of what I thought my retirement budget was. And you're knocking off I'm not saving any more money. I'm not paying as much in taxes, all that kind of stuff coming out. But some of the things that, a little embarrassing that surprised me, I wasn't driving to work every day.
Yeah.
So my car, one of my cars, the one I drove to work, I was driving like 13,000 miles a year on this car. I'm only driving about 2.
Yes.
Well, you don't get many oil changes. You don't go through tires. You don't go through anything. And gasoline, I'm like, good gosh, I saved like $5,000, which, is a lot when you're talking about retiring just on my car.
Yeah.
And then so many, we were talking about, you get a little more frugal with money. You're like, hey, maybe I can start my sprinkler system by myself, or my refrigerator's making a noise. Let me get on YouTube and see, and all those little things add up. I cut the cable. I had cable. We were spending $216 a month on cable. And that's cable and wireless. Yeah. And I'm spending 90 now. Yeah. All those things weren't in my budget. So I just kept trimming down. The big one was health insurance. Yeah. I could, and this is, the one bad thing I have about, I worked for a great company. Yeah. Okay. Let me say that. But when they see the opportunity to reduce cost, cutting costs for retirees is a great place to reduce cost. I had retiree medical. Well, the premiums went from the day I retired were $600 a month, and they were $2,000 2 years ago. So they just, hey, we're going to keep the premiums for our working employees down, but the retirees, what are they going to do?
Are they going to retire?
Yeah,
that wasn't
very nice.
They'll drop the insurance. You're like, that's what the company wants you to drop. Actually, it's funny. I just got an email on this just today, as a matter of fact. The guy's sad. Came down with pancreatic cancer, and he's like, not long for the world. Good guy. Worked with him, and it's funny in an ironic way, I suppose. But he's like, I asked him what long story short, this is a different guy. I think he emailed me. Yeah, his wife had a stroke when she's like 35 years old or something like that. I said, that's what it was, a different guy. And I said, did she go on Medicare? I said, no, it took him like 8 months to go on Medicare, but the company wanted her to go on Medicare when she got her disability because they didn't want to pay for the insurance. You know what I'm saying? And they're
Yeah.
like, nah, you can't really blame the company, but the same point is like he was still working there, man.
Yeah.
So just think if you're not working there, the company's like, Joe and Lisa, get the hell out of here, man. You're
Yeah.
not doing anything to
Yeah.
us.
Move on. Get off our plan. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, are you checking your portfolio on a regular basis, Joe?
I check my portfolio once a quarter.
Yeah.
Is all I look at it. And that's, I hear you talk about that. Stop looking at it every day. You're going to do something. I really try to I live my life, and then once a quarter, I still got one spreadsheet I still use. But I also use a comprehensive software package that I found. I pay $120 a year for this software package, and man, it's great.
What software package you use?
It's New Retirement.
Oh yeah, New Retirement. I heard a lot of people.
And I use it. It is fabulous on taxes, and that's that's my biggest expense. As I look out 30 years, my taxes. So I use that. I update that. My New Retirement. I update my spreadsheet, see how things are going. I look at my budget, see how much we spent the last 3 months. Yeah. And then I use buckets. I listen. Yeah. You're barbell. I have bucket one. I have three. Okay. Yeah. I have bucket one, which I have 4 years out of the market.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And, some people think that's high. Some people think that's low. That's just what I had a formula for getting there. I got 4 years, which, actually now, hey, I can buy some CDs, man. I'm making money in bucket one. And then I have a bucket two, which is like 60-40.
Yeah.
But I don't need that till year 5.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. And then I have bucket 3 money, 100%. Yeah. Stocks. I own no individual stocks, but it's 100% stocks. I need that bucket 3 at year 9. So I just look at my buckets, and every quarter, that's part of my cadence. I look at them and I said, can every bucket do its job? And like when last year, bucket 1 started to go down because the market was down. And so I just was going to write it on down. But then some of my investments in bucket 2 did okay. My 60-40 were doing okay. So I actually moved some out of bucket 2, bought a 5.1% CD in Fidelity, and going on down the road. So I'm back to 4 years in bucket 1, 4 years in bucket 2, and
took some gains, man. You took the gains.
Took the gains off, because here's what a lot of people don't get about retirement. You're not trying to maximize your returns.
Well, yes, Joe.
But the problem is, Josh, your entire career, you're trying to maximize your returns.
Absolutely.
And then you retire and you're going, and everybody, I thought I was a pretty cocky investor when I was working. Wait till you're retired. You're going to go, no, wait a second. You gotta, I didn't have buckets when I was 45 years old. I had all stock.
Joe, I cannot stress that enough, man. People, and I get it. I was there. I mean, I get my man Thomas P on. Yeah, I like Thomas P. He's a good guy. He's always talking about, the long term for the stocks. Look, I get that. I get that when you're in accumulation phase. I get it. When you're in let's try to keep it even. The accumulation is secondary to the protection. And it's a whole different mindset. These young whippersnappers, you know what I'm saying? They're still plugging. They're still plugging. They got a secure job. Yes, accumulation, 100%.
Yeah. I use the Atlanta Falcons. Your home Falcons. Hey, in the Super Bowl a few years ago, they were up by what?
28-3.
They were up by 25 points in the fourth quarter. All they had to do was run the ball up the middle and punt, and they win the game. Instead, they start passing, they get sacked. And hey, if there's 7 minutes left in the game and you're up by 3 touchdowns, you don't need to score.
Just sit on the ball.
But it's hard. That is a hard transition. I have to check myself. I've been retired 4 years. It's still, for me, you kind of like, ooh, I can get a little more return there. I can get a little more return. Hey, let's leave, especially when the market's going up.
Yes,
You're like,
man.
market's going up. I'm going, why do I got 4 years in bucket one? Let's go all in. Let's buy Apple. Let's
Fear
buy
of missing out,
FTX.
that FOMO is a big, because I'm a third. I got a third in cash, a third in bonds, and a third in VT, just total stock index. And when that freaking market's going up, like, damn, I'm only 52. I need to have more. But I'm like, look, I got to remember what. And then the markets go down. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. But it's tough, Joe. When you're sitting there, the FOMO is a big deal, man.
It's a big deal.
Yeah,
and you just have to have that discipline. Bucket one, what is its job? It's to manage me through a 4-year down market. That's what its job is. It's not trying to maximize the returns. It's trying to get me through a 4-year down market. That's its job.
Guy asked a good question for you, Joe. He says, "What after 4 years will you move bucket 2 to bucket 1? What's your strategy in that regard?"
Well, they're not in series like that. I don't run bucket 1 all the way down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, each bucket has a purpose. Like I said, bucket 1, every quarter I'm looking at it. So say all my bucket 1's full at 4 years, bucket 2's at 4 years, bucket 3, it's just got whatever it's got. So bucket 1 quarter into the year, I'm going to be at 3 3/4 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I look at bucket 2 and bucket 3, and I say, oh, well, stock market's up 25%. Okay. I'm going to take some out of bucket 2 or bucket 3. I can do whatever and top off the gas tank.
Yes.
Okay. So now I'm 4 or 1 quarter into the year.
Yeah.
I re-top off up to 4 years. The only purpose of bucket 1 is to get you through a 4-year bear market. So you got to keep the freaking tank full.
Man.
You don't wait 4 years and then say, do a transfer. Your pants are down.
Joe, I cannot stress how spot on you are, man. Whoever asked that question, the big 96er, take the friggin' gains and refill the bucket 1. You don't have to wait for 4 years. Because I get this question like, well, what happens this? What happens that? I'm like, oh, for the love of God, just if the bucket is down a year and this is up a year, take the gains from the bucket 3 or 2 that's up here, put into bucket 1 so you can replenish the gas. It's so.
And I do it. I do it more often than that, not just because I want to, overcorrect,
Right.
but I've looked at the last 10 bear markets. Okay. And forget about the one we're in now, because we don't know how it's going to end.
Right.
Forget about the one in 2020, or forget about the 3-month one, right? Forget about that. You look at 7 of the last 10, they went from peak to trough to peak in under 4 years.
Right.
So I'm sitting there going, okay, I can get through 70% of the bear markets with 4 years. That's why I picked 4 years. Okay. That was my whole process. And then I said, oh, but a couple of them lasted 6, 7, 8 years. Yeah. What am I going to do about that? Well, that's my bucket 2. That's my 60-40 portfolio. And I could pull some of those bonds out if I need to. So that's my game plan. And that bucket 2 is a little more long-term. So if you look at my the 60-40 portfolio over 4 or 5 year time periods, they do pretty good. I think they've lost a couple times in the last, 50 years, but generally you're not going to be down 50% after 4 years. It'll come back a little bit. It may be down 5%. Okay. I can live with that. I'm trying to push the returns up a little bit.
But yeah. We can't plan for every contingency out there. At some point, you got to say, I'm okay with a 70%. If I can manage the buckets and 70% of the time I'm back to even Steven after 4 years, the likelihood of me being able to survive this is pretty high. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So many people I talk to or give me comments saying, well, what about the Great Depression? I said, hey, if there's a Great Depression, there's going to be a lot of people with problems. I'll just be one of them.
Right.
Now, and if you want to live your life in fear like that, you're going to be working till you're 100.
That's it, Joe. What about healthcare? What about the Great Depression? I said, then maybe you shouldn't quit your job. I mean, literally, maybe if that is the concern, it's okay to have that concern.
There is risk. There is risk, especially if you retire early. There's risk on the table, but you got one shot to do it right.
And maybe that guy would be even more scared once he did retire, thinking that the Great Depression's coming. You know what I'm saying? So maybe that guy, because I get that all the time too. It's like, what if I get it? I said, no, I get 100%. What if, what if, what if? If that is the primary driver of someone's inability to retire, I'm not yelling at them.
No.
However, I think the vast majority of people that at least I talk to, I'm like, have you ever actually like witnessed any of that? Well, my grandparents did. I said, no, what we witnessed. And this is what I say, Joe. I said, do you not Joe, but do you not realize 2007 to 2009, the S&P 500 was down 57 flipping percent. You know what I'm saying? 2008, when you factor in inflation, was the worst year we ever had. So we did witness a Great Depression-ish time when it comes to the markets. We did. And yet you survived it. Now, a lot of times we survived it because we're still in accumulation mode. But if we're in decumulation mode like you are, Joe, and me for that matter, I'm still making money. But you know what I'm saying? We're both retired from our corporate gigs. Well, that's why we have the buckets. That way, if 2008 comes around, by the time 2011 comes around, 4 years, shocking. The VTI that we have in our third bucket is right back to where it was. Now, that might not give you a 20% rate of return. We don't need that anymore.
You don't need it. Another factor, Josh, that I talk to people an awful lot, and I know you do this. You've got a book on this. This is exactly why I consider my best asset is Social Security.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the return I get on it, and I'm trying to defer that out. I think the right time is going to be 69 for me because my wife's 2 years younger, so she could take at her full retirement age as soon as she can. She gets half of mine. That seems to be about where I'm at. But if Armageddon happens, next year, I can go to work. I'm 58. Right. I can get a job. I can in maintenance with, I could get a job. But when I'm 78, I can't.
Right.
So I want my payment to be as high as I can.
100%, man.
So when that happens, we just hunker down and live off Social Security. The house is paid off. So what's your defense against that? Social Security is freaking fantastic. And so many people say, I want to take it at 62 because I'm afraid it's going to be gone. And I've, okay. Are you planning on, like you say, Josh, are you planning on Medicare?
Exactly.
Okay. Both of them will be gone. And it'll be a bad day. So Social Security to me, take the 8% a year for pushing out. And it's your defense against Armageddon.
The worst case scenario, Joe and Lisa are on Social Security at, let's say, $5,000 a month between you and her, or even $4,000. No debt. You're 75 years old. You're living on $50,000 to $60,000 a year. That's the worst case scenario. You know what I'm saying?
My stocks are down 95%. Okay, we're still eating. We're still eating. Right. But if you take it at 62, that 5,000 may be 2,800. Well, now it's a different thing. It's a story. So, yes, there are good reasons for taking it at 62, but most of them that I hear aren't good.
No, it's always about they're going to take it away, or I can invest that money and do better than the government. I said, you might be able to. I'm not denying that, but you also might not. And if you don't do better, then you are, I say screwed because we don't know, but you've locked that in for the rest of your life. And on top of that, my wife is 4 years younger than me, and her own benefit upon my demise won't be gone. It'll be just like Lisa's for you, Joe. So for me, I'm like, I can't take it early because I'll be screwing my wife. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and, you have to play that with Social Security. I had this one guy, one of my most famous stories. This one guy had 3 pensions, and like a military and 2 federal government ones. It was just ridiculous.
Right.
One of them had 0% surviving spouse. One had 25, and one had 50% surviving spouse. That's for some reason that was the maximum he could. He told me that's the maximum he could do. He's got this Monte Carlo simulation. I'm 99%, probability of success of us both living to 99 or living to 90, 99%. Right. And I say to him, why don't you model you dying at 65?
Yes.
And it went down to like 15%. And he just about had a freaking stroke. Yeah. And I said, man, Social Security, man, you got to push that stuff out. He had an insurance policy. It was simple fix. They both had insurance policies, and I said, man, you're going to have to take out a term life insurance policy. what I would do is I'd take out a term life policy on myself.
Right.
Forget about my wife. It doesn't matter financially if
Right.
she dies.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's I call it stress testing your plan. That's one of my biggest concerns about people is they work in a software package or they do the math and they say, hey, everything fits.
Right.
And then I say, one guy I talked to had like a 13% return on his investments. And I'm like, well, that could happen. And I said, well, why don't you put in 6 and see what happens?
Yeah.
Why don't you put in dying early?
Wait. He was using 13%?
He was using 13%. Yeah, that was his optimistic. And because that's what he needed to make it work. And I'm going, so stress testing your plan, play around with inflation, play around with rates of return, dying early, dying late.
Don't use 13%, folks.
Don't use 13%.
Woo!
Yeah.
I always wonder, Joe, when I hear that, I'm like, where is that going to come from? And if they say historical, I say, oh boy, here we go again. Because history is history. You know what I'm saying? And the future is a mystery.
You don't know. There's a lot of reasons it could be just as good, and there's a lot of reasons it could be a heck of a lot worse. And
but if it's a lot worse, that's another reason why Social Security are delaying that. And that doesn't mean everybody. So people on here say, I'm taking dude.
I'm on Team Josh. Social Security is your most valuable asset. Treat it as if I gave you, anybody in this audience, I say, here's an investment that is 8% fixed return adjusted for inflation every year. I would put 100% of my money in it.
And guaranteed.
And it's guaranteed.
And people say, oh, but they're going to take 20% away. I'm like, oh, do you hear yourself? Do you literally hear yourself say that? Like government doesn't. Politicians don't get reelected by taking people's money. They get reelected by giving.
Yeah, there's a lot of voters. There's a lot of us voters. We got plenty of time to vote when we're retired, man.
Well, absolutely. And plenty of time to go to town halls and rabble rouse against these politicians. Then I don't care if they say, well, we just put it on a blue ribbon commission. I'm like, dude, can you freaking get those? It ain't going to fly, man. They're not reducing Social Security. I mean, look, anything could happen. It's not going to happen.
That's not that. I wouldn't be worried about that. There's a lot of things to worry about.
Especially, Joe, the thing that actually kind of annoys me, and I don't really get too annoyed, but I'm like, you can worry about your health, and your health is a lot more that you can maintain, not you, Joe, again, but, let's just say you're eating crappy, maybe you're 50, 80 pounds overweight, you haven't really gone out in the sunshine, and you're watching Fox News if you're on the right or MSNBC on the left, and that's not good for your brain. And yet you're sitting there thinking Social Security could be taken away as you're kind of gobbling up, more and more processed foods and just eating all this crap and whatnot. I'm like, the first thing you might want to do is just go for a walk, you know what I'm saying? Because your health is your wealth. And, when you're worried so much about Social Security, it's actually detrimental to your health. So maybe focus on what you can control as opposed to, Biden or Trump, whatever. They're going to get me. I'm like, can't really control that, but you can control if you go for a walk and maybe lose a couple pounds or something like that, and maybe get in better shape. That way you can enjoy your retirement as opposed to always being threatened by things that are out of your control. And that's another thing that bothers me about people when they retire, they start really getting, anxious about things that are out of their control. I said, man, you need a job, you need a hobby, you need something.
Yeah. You got to do something with your time. You can't just, roll around on your pile of money. And people, like I said earlier, people grossly underestimate how much free time they're going to have.
Oh, man.
You're not getting ready for work. You're not driving to work, and you're working all day. Then you come home and, you got to commute home. Yeah. And what do? You're tired.
Yes.
You eat and then you sit on the couch. Yeah. I mean, this is what I watched. I watch about 20% of the TV now that I did when I was working. And I have so much more time to do it. How does that make sense? Well, I'm not tired.
Right.
I'm on this call at, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I'm not tired. It's people grossly underestimate the amount of time they have and how you're going to be more fit if you choose to be, eat healthy. One of the things, I've got videos on this too. I lost 45 pounds from when I retired. Now I picked up 15 of those that I'm still working, that I'm not happy about, but I'm still down 30.
Hey.
And one other thing that I wanted to mention tonight was, I was the guy that said I had no stress. I was the guy that said I loved my job. And I had people come up to me all the time and say, when I was working, and say, Joe, how do you do it? How do you keep track of all these
Right.
disasters going on at the plant, all these safety, environmental issues, throughput issues? And I go, man, I love it. I love the game.
Right.
I
Right.
loved it. I
Right.
liked being quarterback on the football
Yeah,
team.
absolutely.
And I'm not under stress. I love this game. And then I retired.
Yeah.
And I set down a 10-pound weight that I didn't even know I was carrying.
Yes. Yes.
And then you start eating healthier. And how much longer are you going to live by eating healthier? I've always exercised.
Yeah.
I love pumping iron.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do like that. But I've always exercised, but I was rushing meals. And yeah, it's just been such a tremendous change. The stress that I honestly, I never thought I would be saying this, that I was under stress in that job, because you got deadlines, you got
Yeah.
meetings,
Yeah.
you got performance reviews, you got presentations. Yeah, I enjoyed all that, but they all were a little bit of, stress that, I don't have anymore.
Nah, that's man. There's a different kind of stress. Like I'm self-employed now, so I'm like, when you're self-employed, you're like, where's the next paycheck come from? And
Yeah.
just, everyone's got stress never goes away. But I tell you, man, when you're not in the corporate gig, you choose your own time to do things
Yeah.
that previously you didn't have the choice. Like I'd commute to Midtown or Buckhead in Atlanta on a bad day. It's an hour and a half each way. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And you just want to kill yourself. And I don't care how many podcasts you listen to, when you're sitting there bumper to bumper traffic, knowing you got a kid's freaking T-ball game or something like that, and you're like, man, you're just like, it freaking sucks, dude. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And that's yes, you're sitting in your car, your fat ass is sitting in your car, you eat a quick something, and you're like, and it's just not healthy. And then you finally get home, you chomp down something real quick, you know what I'm saying? Then you go to the T-ball, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? You're like,
Yeah.
by the time you're back, it's 8:30, and you're like, all right, now I'm gonna just turn on Fox News or whatever. It's like that's not healthy, man. And
Hey, Josh, what do you think of those studies? Because I've done a little research, but those studies that says, hey, if you want to live longer, keep working. You retire
yeah,
early, you'll die. And I'm like, you've got to. I maybe on mass, on averages, but as an individual, that sounds insane to me.
yeah. So those studies are actually what drives me crazy is that a lot of those people, the reason they dude, these guys are so good. They're so good at this stuff. These fakers. All right, so if you're like, let's just say you're sick, you know what I'm saying, and you're like, man, if I retire, I'm gonna die because I don't have the health insurance, because the health insurance will be through the roof. So I'm gonna keep working until I go on Medicare. You see what I'm saying? That's
Oh,
what
yeah.
happens. It's like if I hang up my boots early. So basically, it's kind of like a self-selective group of people. They're
Yeah.
making decisions based on their health. So I have to keep working, or else I will. I'd say I will die, because you don't know that for sure. But also, what happens is the people like my man who emailed me earlier today, a guy named my man Gary. He says, I just got pancreatic cancer. I only got a couple years to live. So what does he do? He hangs up his boots. And apparently he's got to hang up his boots
He
because he's
didn't
going
die.
to
He
die.
retired early, so he died.
100%. He has to. He's like, I'm sick. I
Yeah.
can't work anymore. And so you throw the people that are sick, who are going to still work, who aren't so sick they're dying. They're going to skew the numbers out where say, if you work longer, you'll live longer. Well, yeah, because they're still working. But the people who are sick so much that they're about to die, they can't work, and apparently they retire, and then they go the next day and they die. And as such, that skews it differently. And it's just a level of financial misinformation that
Yeah. It's wrong. I mean,
is
it's
wrong.
wrong, because I see so many people that I remember when I was working, and we'd have a retirement party for somebody, and you'd see this person retired 10 years ago, and you're going, man, you look great.
Yeah,
You look younger. And that's the audience I see. And I'm like, I was wanting your take on that, because that makes no sense at all to me. That, hey, my stress is lower.
right.
I've
I've
lost
lost
weight.
weight. Exactly.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm eating better. And I'm like, how does that make any sense at all?
Well, there's a guy who's on this channel right now watching, and he knows who he's talking about. They bought a small homestead out in Ohio, out of Philadelphia, outside of Philly, Pennsylvania, something I can't remember. And the wife just sent me an email on their little moo cows they have, milk cows. You got this beautiful meadow, these two little moo cows out there. This guy's got a good looking wife, and he's out there, freaking digging the ditches. that's a tough life for this guy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not stress free, but it's certainly a lot better. He and his wife are out there on their own little homestead with their 2 moo cows and freaking just crushing. And it's like you're sitting there thinking, man, that I don't want a moo cow because I'm too lazy, but I do. I like to be out in the yard. I like to be out in the garden. I couldn't do that when I was at work. So the point being is that this guy now is going to lose weight. He's recapture, and I'm not saying they needed to, but a lot of people recapture their marriage, and it's freaking awesome, man. It's they lose. I get emails. You probably do too, Joe, all the time. Man, I've lost 30 pounds. My blood pressure's way down. I'm reinvigorated, and man, nothing makes it. Not for everybody. It's not for everybody. Some people, they need to be in their job because they essentially pile on too much debt. I mean, I hate to say it, but if you pile on too much debt,
there's always more to the story when in those situations, and some people they had some health issues early, or they had a family member, and there's good reasons people are in a bad financial situation.
Absolutely. And some people, I hate to say it, Joe, but you kind of can tell by the cars they drive. So my guy over here, love them to death, but they got some nice, fancy, schmancy, good time rock and roll vehicles. I'm always like, how the hell do they afford that crap? You know what I'm saying? And I just, I drive a 2013 Toyota Highlander, and I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just like, man, when you got those fancy, schmancy cars, it's got to be paid for, and they don't appreciate and value. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's my favorite advice, to like a 25-year-old is, everybody says live below your means and save and invest and all that. I say, you got to win the car game.
Yes.
Go, what's the car game?
Yes,
and I said, you can't get your identity from a car.
No.
I drive a 2012 Toyota Sienna that used to be my wife's car with 196,000 miles on it.
Man, I was going to ask you, Joe. I said, I guarantee you're driving an old vehicle. Guarantee. I say old. I mean, I'm just saying paid off. Doesn't have to be that old, but you know what I'm saying? Like me, a 2013 Toyota Highlander.
Yeah. Now, I used to have a 2005 Camry, and my wife was driving the Toyota, but we started driving a lot, in retirement. I paid cash for I got a Honda Odyssey minivan. I'm a 2 minivan family, but it's tempting, and I understand it. It's tempting. I could go out and buy, a $60,000 pickup truck and drive it to Walmart and impress my friends. But I love my neighbors. I'm just thinking about him right now. He just comes over to my house and just laughs. And he said, Joe, he's got an F-150 pickup truck, one of those $60,000, $70,000 ones. And he just laughs. He says, Joe, you're just killing it, aren't you? You're just killing it, because I'm retired and I'm smiling. I'm driving my old van.
30 pounds lighter, by the way, Joe. 30 pounds lighter. You got sun on your face. You getting that vitamin D.
Yeah, you've got to win the car game. And so many people if you win the car game alone, and you save $500-$600 a month, 8% in an S&P 500 for 40 years.
Lower auto insurance too, by the way.
Auto insurance. And what happens when you're at Walmart and you got a 2012 Sienna and somebody backs into your bumper and drives away and you got a dent in your bumper? What do? You go, I got another dent. What do you do if you've got a 2022? You go get it fixed and you pay the deductible, and you might as well get it.
And you get mad too, by the way. And you're pissed off, like, man, I just bought this car and I got a dent in it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
it's the car game is one, for the younger listeners. You got to win that. If you win that, you are on the right track.
Man, as my wife and I were driving yesterday, I saw this guy, a young guy in his brand spanking new Ford Mustang next to me. And he looked like he's probably not much older than high school. Anyways, he drove away. He had a Go Army license plate. I said, that guy just re-enlisted in the Army and used his bonus for a new car. I guarantee. I said, man, I told my wife, man, all these guys, when they re-enlist in the Army, they all do the same thing, buy a fancy schmancy car. I'm like, I wish they would not do that, man. But that is their identity. They're young men, and they're young and dumb and full of something else. I won't say. We'll say piss and vinegar. I said, I get it. But, man, if he could have just, like you said, if he just would have saved that $40,000, whatever the hell the re-enlistment bonus is, I don't know what it is anymore. But if he would have put half that money away and just let that puppy grow for, oh my goodness, and he could still drive a decent car, man.
Yeah. You could
All right,
say
man.
you can get a used Mustang and it almost looks exactly the same to everybody
That's what
else.
I'm saying. It still sounds just as good. You know what I'm saying? It still sounds good. You can get a freaking V8. It doesn't have to be brand new.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, these guys want to get out of here. So, all right, man. So where can everybody find you? I know you all know Joe, but Joe, what's your just Joe Kuhn?
Yeah, you just type in Joe Kuhn and you'll find me.
And you got a website too. What's your website?
Don't worry about that. Just look on Joe Kuhn. It's in the text of my my videos. I don't have too many people go to my website. That's really for my reliability and maintenance work.
Right.
So all
Joe
of my
Kuhn
stuff on
YouTube. Right on, man. And Joe, God bless, man. It's been great. I really appreciate it, man. And just keep crushing, man.
You keep up the videos, and thanks to you that I started YouTube 4 years ago.
And that makes me real happy, man. You're the
Nobody
man, Joe.
you.
I don't care what Lisa says. She married okay. You might have got
married just one step down. Just one step.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
Joe.
Talk to you later. Thanks, Josh.
God
Bye.
bless. Bye-bye.